So I decided that I'm going to put this in 3 ways that's going to force the opposition to stop playing stupid and concede my point. If Martin Luther King had lived with his parents and he felt inspired by God to make speeches on YouTube at all times of the day and night, which ironically enough there was this recent movie with Martin Luther King, about Martin Luther King, and some speech, I forgot, some event at the bridge. I'll put it in the comments when I find the name of the movie, where he calls a female during the middle of the night to hear a poem. So he was inspired at all times of the day and night. But anyway, if Martin Luther King had been inspired to make speeches on YouTube, he lived with his parents, and his parents were, doctors who collaborated with mental health, and had friends who were in law enforcement and didn't agree with what he was doing, and they were always trying to play him out as mentally ill or something, and calling him during his speeches on his room phone and saying, "Are you okay?" Who would be right? Mental health, the pigs, his parents, or him? Well, of course, it's very basic. He would. He knows he's right about something. It's his right to be, to express himself. And his parents are separated from him. I forgot to add that. One door, a hallway, another door. So there's 2 doors of separation and a hallway between them. Okay, 2-story house, pretty big house. So the other scenario is if a feminist was doing it and she lived with her parents and she was complaining about women issues. Keep in mind, I don't agree with feminism. I know that obviously that women have issues that are specific to them. I don't agree with mainstream feminism. Anyway, and it was the same thing, her parents were friends with mental health, they were doctors, and they were friends with law enforcement, and they'd call her in the middle of her passionate speech, why she has many friends who do the same thing, and none of their parents do the same thing because they don't have the same living circumstances that she does. Who would be right? I mean, the issue here isn't one about breaking the rules, which should be the only issue here. Stop breaking the rules, keep it down. The kind of issues that aren't that big of a deal when you think about it, because how many teenagers play their music loud and their parents always have to remind them, turn your music down. The last scenario, again, I think it's disgusting, but I'm going to bring it up because the opposition consists of these people, is a homosexual who's, is upset, and we all know they get upset and they make a scene, and that's kind of typical of homosexuals. They're making videos about gay rights and how gays are treated, and they're called by their parents, and their parents, same scenario, the parents are friends with mental health and law enforcement, and they're doctors, and they say, "Are you okay?" And they say, "Have you been taking your medicine good?" and blah blah blah. Alright, the reason why I bring this up is because during part 5, actually part 4, and it's probably a mix between part 3 and part 4, my dad called me. In fact, he was right outside my door when he called me. For whatever that means, you can take it for it. You can say he was afraid to, confront me about it. I don't know. You can take it how you want. He called, and perhaps it was most convenient, whatever. I don't know. And he said, "Are you okay?" And later on, when I see him downstairs, later in the morning, he says, "Have you been taking your medicine?" in a stern voice. And he says, "Good." Good. Kind of in a, not really like that, but in a very stern voice. And so yes, this is very typical of all my life. This goes on. And as you can see right now, I'm very calm, and I'm presenting my story very logically, very cogently. Maybe not concise because it's not short, it's not succinct, it's kind of, I'm elaborating. But there have been many times when I did it in a very concise manner, when everything is considered. All that needs to be said is considered. So yes, are there issues with the noise? Yes, I recognize that, and I try not to do it too often. I'm not always yelling in my videos. Some videos are like this. For example, right now, I'm accommodating them while doing what I need to do to show you that this is not an issue of mental illness. Because when I am very logical and very scientific even with my presentation, and I reflect, I'm very reflective, introspective, and I'm thinking, okay, well, what was the behavior? Why? I have the most insight. I'm considering what everyone has to say about it. Again, if you have any thoughts and you're not a troll, feel free to say it. If it's stupid, I'll tell you it's stupid. If I think that you're, might have a point, I'll tell you you might have a point. Depending on how much it insults compared to how much I believe it's your honest opinion. Because some people like to insult. Some people's opinion is stupid, and you might think they're trying to insult you, but they just don't know better. So yes, I think that's important on about this as well, because it goes back to my when I'm talking about this as well, because it goes back to what I was saying in the other videos, how they have isolated me from potential allies, neutrals, what have you. Because if I go for assistance, what's going to happen? They're going to say, well, they're already in the mind state of jumping to the conclusion of medicine, medicine, medicine. Psychiatrists, 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 drugs, 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 and not considering what I have to say, or the environmental factors, the political factors, the social factors as well. They're going to downplay the fact that 65 million preventable deaths occur each year. And when you look at the average 15-minute video, well, let's do the math real quick, shall we? A minute is 60 seconds, and we'll just round down, if you will, to 2. Okay, two deaths a second. So every minute there is 120 preventable deaths. Now, since a minute is 60 seconds, 10 minutes is 600 seconds. Okay, so that's 1,200 deaths every 10 minutes. Half of that is 600. Excuse me. Yes, no, that is right. Half of that is 600. So that's 1,800 deaths every 15 minutes. So by the time, if I end at 15 minutes in this video, 1,800 preventable deaths will have occurred. But to many of you, that is no cause to be upset. If I dare raise my voice because I'm upset about it, if I dare try to step up, my tone to reflect the seriousness of the situation, then to many of you, that automatically I must have something wrong with me. You see how flawed that is? And you see when you compare the arguments and you actually break them down for what they are. Psychiatrist's argument is very silly. The Santa Clara County Sheriff Department's argument is very silly, very irresponsible, very dangerous to make. Because once you set the precedent, once you live by false pretense, what happens? You set the precedent that whenever anyone is upset about something as extremely serious as this, that they must be mentally ill. What is Illuminati Part 1? How does it end? Toward the end I say, and the white man's twist is very sinful and deadly. Deadly. 65 million plus preventable deaths, type deadly. So what I've been talking about since 2009, since went back to the psych ward for the first time in 10 years, on the anniversary of my uncle's death in 2010, February 26th. I've been talking about death, preventable deaths. My uncle's death, had it not been for the environmental factors, would have been avoided. The things that caused him cancer that were related to the lifestyle of American culture that was impressed upon him, if for nothing else. And there might be other suspicious circumstances as well. I'm not going to get into that. So I'm upset about preventable deaths that disproportionately happen to melanated people. And to them, that is no cause to raise your voice. That's no cause to want to scream. You know, ever heard the expression scream and cry? To them, that's no cause to want to scream. You know, in many African cultures, there's a mourning period. In fact, in many cultures, there is a mourning period, which means, you know, not the, you know, not the mourning, but, you know, a period of sorrow. Okay. Now, that period occurs when one person dies. What happens when by the time you finish one video, 1,800 deaths, preventable deaths have occurred? The period of mourning, my friends, never ends. Therefore, the period of fussing about it never ends. If somebody was raping your child every day, should you stop fussing because you fussed about it the first time? Should you stop trying to stop it because you tried to stop it the first time? So then what is to be said about 1,800 preventable deaths every video, 65 million plus preventable deaths every year? Plus, upwards, going up, greater than, you know, the greater than sign, you know, greater than 1,500 preventable deaths every year. Now, how sick is psychiatry if it is to be used as a mechanism to stop those who wish to stop 65 million plus preventable deaths a year? What is the appropriate way to handle this? Well, we handle it like, you know, if the problem is noise, then you handle it as you would handle any other person, sane person making noise. And they have a less understandable reason to make noise, don't they? They're just playing music. Well, they're upset about something, but nothing as usually, for the most part, not for something as profoundly depressing, demoralizing, and saddening as what I am upset about. So yes, I have videos where I'm being covertly drugged, where I act a fool. And it's understandable. Even those ones. Even if you didn't know I was being covertly drugged, you could tell by the subject matter that I have a very reasonable reason to be upset. So what happens when we create a society where somebody has a very apparent reason, very obvious reason for being upset? They're upset, but we say, you need drugs because it must be a result of biological dysfunction. It must be a genetic abnormality. That this behavior is abnormal. It's abnormal to be upset when 65 million plus people die a year, then every second 2 people die. It's abnormal to be upset about that. It is normal to be mindful about, you know, eating your breakfast. You know, you ever heard of multitasking people? Well, according to mental health, as I've demonstrated in the 3 or 4 videos before this, it is abnormal to multitask. You should be mindful. So we're being drugged and brainwashed to be mindful, to do one thing at a time, and to walk around with fucking blinders on in a society that demands multitasking for survival. Isn't that the same as sabotaging someone? It's bad enough there's a long list of side effects. I can dig these up from the last minute and 15 seconds I have left. It's bad enough there's a long list of side effects for the drugs you wish to give us. But then you want to brainwash us to live life in an inferior manner that is going to give your friends and the bootlickers who are indifferent to suffering the upper hand. What do you call that? I call that, my friends, I call that malpractice. That is the legal term for what they're doing. Malpractice. But the problem here is that instead of it being malpractice in its truest form, thus, you know, the standard, they've deviated from the standard of treatment. The standard of treatment is the fraud itself. The standard is a malpractice sort of standard, is a bad practice, is a harmful, deadly practice. An industry of death while they market madness. The standard is the problem. The standard of care. The standard of mistreatment. I hope you understand the gravity of the situation. I'm out of time.